Fenway Park, the home of Mo Vaughn and the Boston Red Sox, and today they'll be taking on a rival from the AL East, the Baltimore Orioles. Both these teams trying to catch the New York Yankees. They've got a ways to climb. The Orioles a bit closer, but here come the Red Sox now. They're starting to bomb the home runs. They've been doing that and winning baseball games lately. Josh Lewin along with Ken Singleton. Welcome everybody to Fenway Park. Great day for baseball. The Orioles are going to sorely miss Brady Anderson today. They're thankful that it might only be for today. Brady was in a hospital last night, held for observation. They thought it might be a case where he needed his appendix out. Well, maybe not, but they need Brady out there at some point.
Well, both these clubs have big bats, though, to score some runs. They've both done that, more so than the Yankees. They've hit a lot more home runs than the Yankees as well. But the telling numbers are the ones on the right, where the Yankees have outpitched the Red Sox and the Orioles, and certainly the bullpen of the Yankees has been better than both of these two clubs. And that's why the Yankees are well out in front in the Eastern Division.
And the wheels continue to turn for the Baltimore Orioles as they make the big move. Cal Ripken, he's the guy that goes to third base. Manny Alexander gets to audition at shortstop, and all of Baltimore is buzzing about that. What do you make of that?
Well, I think that Manny's going to be traded down the road. I think they're looking at him, getting evaluations, letting other ball clubs take a look at Manny Alexander at shortstop. Cal Ripken might be going back to his original position.
Meantime, for Boston, Mo Vaughn doesn't go anywhere. He's the first baseman. He's the monolith. The first two letters of monolith are indeed M-O, and he can hit them out.
He did last night against the Orioles. 13-2, the Red Sox. The winners, Mo Vaughn, with a big home run in the course of the ball game, and the Red Sox won the second game of this four-game series.
And Mo will take his hacks today against Rocky Coppinger. Tim Wakefield, the knuckleballer, goes for the Red Sox, and we'll have it for you right here at Fenway. We'll return after these messages from your local Fox station. At Fenway Park and the beguiling left field wall, the Green Monster. And they have packed Fenway today to watch the Orioles and the Red Sox go at it. As the Red Sox just now take the field. The Orioles in at 49 and 45. And they're trying to stay loose at this point and also win some ball games. The new Miller Beer starting lineup for the Baltimore Orioles reads this way. Mike Devereaux in for Brady Anderson, playing center, leading off. Jeff Houston at second. Cal Ripken, do not adjust your set, at third base. Rafael Palmeiro will DH today. Bobby Bonilla at first, then B.J. Surhoff, Mark Smith, Greg Zahn, and Manny Alexander. And here's Ken to set that Red Sox defense.
Well, Jefferson, O'Leary, and Kevin Mitchell in the outfield. In the infield, Vaughn, Fry, Manto, and Neary. Stanley behind the plate, Wakefield on the mound, 80 errors, second most in the American League behind the Tigers.
An interesting look to that outfield today. Jefferson, O'Leary, and Mitchell, not exactly Gold Glove candidates left to right. Tim Wakefield doing the pitching, a guy whose career reads like a made-for-TV movie script. 1989, weak-hitting minor league infielder Timothy Stephen Wakefield converts to knuckleball pitcher. 3 years later, he's 10-1 for the Pittsburgh Pirates, wins a couple games in the NLCS, and then suddenly, this is about the midway part of the movie, he loses command of that knuckleball. He goes back to the minors. He gets crushed. The Pirates throw him on the scrap heap. The Red Sox sign him. And as he reports to spring training, he finds knuckleball artistes. Phil and Joe Niekro are down there as well. The Silver Bullets women's team that they're coaching, sharing spring training facilities with Boston. So we're almost through the movie now. The Niekros spruce up the Wakefield knuckler. He ends up 16-8 in the show. That was last year, and the baseball poets called the Wakefield story everything from a Lazarus act to Faustian. And that's fine. Kevin Kennedy, I mean, he's a learned man. It's a very literate way to look at it. But all Kennedy knows, all Tim Wakefield knows is it's nice just to be back in the major leagues. The new twist to all of this, he's fallen down again to 6-9 this year and has given up the most runs of any pitcher in Major League Baseball. Mike Devereaux digs in for the Orioles on a breezy Saturday afternoon here in New England. First knuckleball of the day. Tap dances right in on Devereaux, 1-0.
Josh, you talked about the breeze, and that certainly could affect the knuckleball this afternoon. We've seen Nate Wakefield pitch before, but it's been indoors.
Bops another one up there, and it drops a little low, 2-0.
There's the flag that's really the telling breeze here at Fenway Park from left to right, so the left-handed hitters will get a boost this afternoon here at Fenway.
And Wakefield gets a strike that hangs on that outside corner. Gary Cedarstrom calling your balls and strikes today, the man in that short sleeve blue shirt. Aiming for that outside corner again and gets a strike, and I guess that's one of the strange things about the knuckleball, Ken. You can't really aim it and be successful throwing it. It does its thing here, and Devereaux grounds it to the shortstop, Manta, who fires and takes care of Devereaux for the first out. All kinds of defensive changes for both sides. Jeff Manto as the shortstop. He's a guy that has not exactly played a lot of shortstop, but a guy that can probably take advantage of that stiff wind blowing out. A lot of home run hitters in both these lineups today. Cameras everywhere today in the scoreboard, too. That's how you get that beautiful shot right over the shoulder of Reggie Jefferson. Hello. Right in between the balls and the strikes. Hi. Yeah, thanks for coming. Jeff Houston steps away, takes a knuckler inside.
Houston recently back in the Orioles lineup off the disabled list, had knee surgery earlier this year. Left-handed hitting infielder. They are rare at times.
5 out of 10 since coming off the disabled list. And for Houston, this is personal. Anytime he plays against Kevin Kennedy, Houston was in what they call the managerial doghouse when Kennedy was managing in Texas. Gets under this one. And back it goes in a shallow center field. Jeff Fry doing the backpedaling has it for the second out. Jeff Fry, by the way, another former Texas Rangers second baseman.
Third baseman, Cal Ripken.
And it sounds so strange to hear that. Third baseman, Cal Ripken. He's been playing, it seems, since the dawn of civilization, maybe at least since the Roman Empire there. And I'm trying to do the math here. At third base, that's Roman for third. That's the easy one. That's 6. And ironically, V.I. Vi, that's his mom's name. Knuckleball back away from the catcher, Mike Stanley.
And the thing about Cal Ripken at third base recently, 6 games is all, but he hasn't really been hitting the ball well since he's made the move. He had been a hot hitter going into the All-Star game, but since he's moved over to third base, his bat has cooled off.
Once again, Wakefield behind in the count, and the Orioles content to wait out Tim Wakefield today. You saw a shot of Davey Johnson a moment ago, and he kind of drilled it into these guys' heads. Wait out Tim Wakefield, let him drop behind you 2-0, and then we'll start hacking.
I think anytime a player has to make adjustments, it's going to affect his hitting.
There's a knuckler sporting into Cal Ripken.
I think that's the same sort of thing that Bobby Bonilla has been talking about. The Orioles asked him to become the DH earlier this year. He didn't want to do it, and I think when he hasn't hit very well.
Swinging on 2-1 and a chance at the line for Naring, and the cannon shot pulls Mo Vaughn off the bag. Cal Ripken is on, the first base runner that's reached today. Well, Naring got over there in a hurry, but he had a long way to throw it.
Number 25.
Well, with the degree of difficulty of the play turned by Naring, it's going to go as an infield single for Cal Ripken. Now, he doesn't get many of those, but hit the ball to the right spot of the infield, just about as far away from first base as you can get on the infield. You see Naring retreat on the ball, and then he has to straighten up and make the throw across the diamond, but not with the accuracy to get Ripken out.
Naring and Manto there on the left side of the infield. Vaughn holds on Ripken. Now Rafael Palmeiro eyeballs strike one. Palmeiro a career 1 for 11 against Tim Wakefield. And Ripken, by the way, until that infield hit, he had been 1 for 12. So the meat of this order not real successful. He reaches out and he touches someone or something here. Rafael Palmeiro splintered the bat against the knuckleballer. Mo Vaughn will be up in the bottom of the first for the Red Sox in a scoreless game. Kevin Kennedy and his Boston Red Sox have been playing winning baseball this last week and a half. Here's the new Miller Beer starting lineup for the Sox today. Jeff Fry, the Pepper Pot second baseman, gets it all going. Troy O'Leary in the center field. Mo Vaughn at first. And he's been doing it all as usual. Terrific numbers. Jose Canseco follows, and he's been fantastic of late. Tim Naring at third base. Reggie Jefferson has turned it on playing left field today. Kevin Mitchell's in right, Mike Stanley catching, and Jeff Manto takes a turn at shortstop.
Defensively for the Baltimore Orioles in the outfield, Surhoff, Devereaux, and Smith. Bonilla, Houston, Alexander, and Cal Ripken. First week at third base after 2,216 straight games at shortstop. Zahn doing the catching, and Coppinger on the mound.
Yeah, Rocky Coppinger, 5-0 despite a 5.20 ERA. And to face the Red Sox 2 weeks ago, beat his boyhood idol, Roger Clemens. When Coppinger was in high school, he was recruited by the University of Texas, where Clemens went to school, and Coppinger timed his visit to coincide with the UT alumni game so he could see Roger pitch. Starts off fly with a fastball inside.
Well, he and Roger are about the same build as we take a look at Jeff Fry, the second baseman, who scored 5 runs here last night in that 13-2 Red Sox win.
Well, Fry has been the instigator in a lot of these Orioles-Red Sox games. He started a rally about a week and a half ago, a couple weeks ago now, just before the All-Star break, where Vaughn hit a long home run. And yesterday, on base 5 times, scoring 5 times in a 13-2 romp. Coppinger paints one in, 3-1.
Already we can see that Coppinger works fairly quickly, has a pretty good pace going.
Jeff Fry cuts under it and lifts one back where Greg Zahn sheds the mask and looks for it, and teetering, he's got it. First out of the bottom of the first inning.
Well, once again, the wind with an effect on a pop-up behind home plate. You're going to see that often this afternoon on fly balls to the outfield and pop-ups to the infield. Where people will be looking for help, although Zahn was able to make the play. Coming back towards the home plate area, and now the ball getting caught up in the wind. He holds on, makes the play. One more look at it. Jeff Zahn all of a sudden starts to backpedal, but stays with it. Greg Zahn with a nice play.
And with Zahn behind the plate today, Chris Hoyle's getting the day off. Rocky Coppinger deals now to Troy O'Leary. And misses low here. Coppinger basically a 3-pitch pitcher. The fastball, the slider, and the change. Troy O'Leary, pretty good fastball hitter. As he proves right here, down the line. And Mark Smith to try to hunt it down, and it kicks off the angled corner into second base O'Leary, and he'll stop right there. Angular and unique Fenway Park. And already it has caused Mark Smith to have to change direction on a play out there.
Well, that's one of the many angles here at Fenway Park that can give the fielders difficulty. The right field line, the left field line, the fence is out in the outfield, the green monster out in left, and I think that's what makes Fenway Park unique and interesting when it comes to American League Baseball. There's a look at the green monster in left as we swing around towards center field, and a Bermuda Triangle out beyond the bullpen where baseballs and outfielders have gone. And they've all returned, but sometimes not very quickly. And we swing around to right.
Mo Vaughn cranks one that has eyes for disappearing, but Mike Devereaux tracks it down. Tagging is Troy O'Leary. And he'll motor to third base. Mo Vaughn, in the last 3 games that Boston has played against Baltimore, he's hit 3 home runs that have traveled a combined 1,320 feet, 3/4 of a mile, and he probably got to a mile even on that swing.
Well, he didn't miss this one by much. Up in the air towards center field, a high fastball out the middle of the plate. That is one of the danger zones for Mo Vaughn. I don't think he quite got this one, just a little bit underneath it. Didn't drive the ball, and the wind kind of knocked it down a bit. Remember I said the wind is blowing from left to right? I think that kind of hung that one up so Devereaux could make the play.
And we've just gotten a call from the American Automobile Association. It's a mile and 1/10. You saw Old Glory wrapped around its flagstaff out there. You see only the stripes. The stars are on the flag. Trust me, they're just corkscrewed around the pole. Jose Canseco, the second in a line of 5 consecutive 300 hitters in this Red Sox order. Boy, Coppinger challenging Jose Canseco as he did in Baltimore a couple of weeks ago. And Jose Canseco, if he can stay healthy, he can do a lot of damage. But look at that. More games missed than home runs since '86.
Well, check out the games missed, and that's a key number. He was injured earlier this year, but is still putting together a great year here in Boston. He has been in the lineup day in and day out since the beginning of the year. And Jose looks like he's going to drive in over 100 runs. That's something he's done 5 times in his career, but not since 1991. That's how the injuries have built up.
Coppinger coming right back with the fastball. Rocky Coppinger is just cocky enough, just brash enough to back Jose Canseco away, challenge him with those fastballs. Canseco leans right out over the plate. And a lot of young pitchers would probably be a little bit afraid of that. They'd try to just kind of let Jose dictate the at-bat, not Rocky Coppinger. This time slides one away.
When you talk to his pitching coach, Pat Dobson, he says that this young man's only 22 years old, but he has a real clue as to what's going on out on the mound. When to move hitters off, when to go away with the slider, when to come in with the fastball underneath the hands, and really when to throw that changeup. So he's a pretty good pitcher at a very tender age of 22.
Canseco reaching for that one, and the count hangs 2 balls, 2 strikes. Jose Canseco, one-time Rookie of the Year, one-time MVP, the only player in Major League history with 40 home runs and 40 stolen bases.
And still a very, very good fastball hitter. And he has hit some moonshots. This ballpark is built for Jose Canseco and his ability to pull the ball.
You could say this whole team really is they loaded up with right-hand hitters, obviously the exception Mo Vaughn. He'll take his shots at right field. Up and in to Jose is again Coppinger, not afraid. Just comes right in there and says, look, you're going to hang out right on the inside corner into the middle of the plate. I got no choice but to try and back you out of there.
Well, Jose knows this too. If you're going to be in there close every once in a while, you're going to get a visit. Be right around your neighborhood, underneath your chin.
Coppinger against Canseco with a runner at third.
See, that's how one pitch set up another. Fastball in, slider away. Jose spoiled it, but it was a good pitch by Coppinger. Jose couldn't get a good swing at it. And not afraid to throw a breaking ball 3-2.
So in this showdown, you've got close to 500 pounds. Coppinger against Canseco.
Raging Bulls, huh?
At least. Twisting away towards foul territory and beyond into the crowd. Takes a high hop on the concrete, and the souvenir goes up several rows.
Greg Zahn, just like his uncle Rick Dempsey, who played the catcher for the Orioles years ago. Well over near the Red Sox dugout. No give up in this young man, just like his uncle. In fact, I ran into Rick the other day in New York. Advanced scouting for the Colorado Rockies.
He was a one-time candidate for the Orioles managerial job that eventually went to Phil Regan last year. And try that fastball in again.
It looks fastball inside.
Apparently not. And Jose Canseco waits it out. You know, he had an 11-pitch sequence yesterday in an at-bat against Keith Shepard. And he worked over Coppinger right there.
Number 11, third baseman.
Runners at the corners. As you can see from your Fox box, upper left-hand corner, those 2 red dots, one at first base, one at third. And that is Bobby Bonilla at first base. The Orioles making all kinds of defensive adjustments. Matter of fact, there isn't a player in the lineup today that is playing where he was playing on opening day. Not a single one. O'Leary, your base runner at third. Canseco at first, and here's Naring. And fastball away to him, 1-0.
Naring's another good fastball hitter, having a good year for the Red Sox, hitting well over 300. Especially early in the count. He looks to pull the ball early, and then as he gets onwards to 2 strikes, maybe he'll think about hitting the ball up the middle. As all good 300 hitters will.
Coppinger with the slider down and away. If you want to pitch Tim Naring and pitch to him effectively, well,
here's the hot zone right here. You want to stay away from that area.
That's why we've seen Coppinger with the sliders away here, I guess, to Tim Naring. And the fastball is on that outside corner, 2-1. Tim Naring on the DL earlier this year with a strained left hamstring, and more recently the problem's been back spasms. But through all of that, Naring has had an all-star caliber year. Trouble being, he didn't actually get picked to be an all-star. A lot of great third basemen in this league. Slider hangs outside, 3-1. Hitters count.
Once again, Naring has a chance to pick and choose on this next pitch. You remember when he was ahead 2-0 on the count, he took a fastball over the outside corner. That was not what he was looking for. It's not a good pitch to drive. Very same thing applies here.
Now roaring back to make the count full. and some serious gas.
Well, a serious swing as well. He was looking to at least put something up on the green monster. Pitch was in. It was a little up. He couldn't handle it. And Coppinger reached back for a little bit extra. See if he can do it again. 3-2.
Guy on deck that Coppinger doesn't want to face in Jefferson. But he's going to have to face him. Ball 4.
Number
22-year-old Rocky Coppinger laboring here in the first inning.
Reggie
And the
Jefferson.
hottest of several hot Red Sox hitters will come up. Davey Johnson knows all about what Reggie Jefferson can do, because last time Jefferson faced Coppinger, he blasted a home run and went 2 for 2 in a Saturday afternoon game. Pat Dobson, the Oriole pitching coach, will come out, I'm sure, to remind Coppinger what not to throw to Reggie Jefferson.
Well, I think he's after to give him a breather as well. Just give the youngster a chance to regroup here and try and go after this final out with any run scoring. And Jefferson, as you said, has been a hot hitter. Maybe a little reminder of just keep the ball down and work on this man. You haven't been hurt thus far in this inning. The only problem is he's thrown a lot of pitches. 23 pitches in the first inning. That might come back to haunt him later on in the ball game when he has to reach back for something extra with runners aboard again.
It'll haunt the Orioles, too. Their bullpen is pretty much blown up right now. Roger McDowell on the disabled list. Arthur Rhodes is not disabled, but he will not be of use to the team today. He's resting with a sore arm. And Keith Shepard gave him 4 innings last night. So they need Rocky Coppinger to settle down here. And here's Reggie Jefferson with a .374 average, bases loaded. Goes after it, and it's down that left field line. B.J. Surhoff wanders over, makes the catch, and he does retire Jefferson to skate out of trouble. Scoreless at the end of 1 at Fenway.
First baseman.
It'll be Bobby Bonilla, B.J. Surhoff, and Mark Smith coming up for Baltimore here in the top of the second. John Stearns, the first base coach for the Orioles, talking to Greg Zahn in between innings, and Rocky Coppinger there sitting down. Don't knock the rock. He was able to tiptoe out of trouble in what could have been a rocky first inning.
Looked like Stearns was telling something to Zahn about setting your target. Remember, John Stearns was a former catcher for the New York Mets, longtime catcher for the Mets, and maybe setting the target, giving Coppinger a better look at where he's supposed to be throwing the ball.
Now we'll get a look at Bobby Bonilla against the knuckleballer Tim Wakefield. And that's something Bobby Bonilla has been doing all season, going after that first pitch. A very aggressive hitter. Of course, he's been DHing some this year, and he doesn't like it. The numbers certainly bear out Bonilla's argument that he'd rather be in the field. I just wonder, Ken, is that kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy? If you have it in your mind you're not going to do well, you're not going to do well. Rips this one foul, screaming way up into the seats, and Bonilla drops behind to count 2 strikes.
I think Bobby wasn't happy with the way the Orioles asked him to DH as well. It was about 2 days ago in spring training, and he gets the information you're going to be the DH. Now, DH is a job you have to learn. And from prior experience, I can tell you myself, that's the way it goes. You have to get adjusted to a new position altogether.
Bonilla says it's like having 4 pinch hit appearances in a ball game. And what do you do with yourself during the other 2 hours and 50-odd minutes of a ball game? It's just something he never could quite corral in his own mind. We took a rip at a pitch. It floated up there. It's still 2-2.
That's very, very true, because you're used to being in the field, used to running back and forth from your position to keep loose. He says he has problems doing that during the course of the game. You have to go into the clubhouse and ride that exercise bike. Here's the swing, and he bounces it back.
This time, Bonilla laying off. Again, the Wakefield knuckleball has been a little bit erratic so far today.
Well, sometimes you feel you should be up there with a butterfly net.
In the air and to left, and in front of the monster, Reggie Jefferson has got it for the first out of the second. Let's go back to Chip Carey in Hollywood. Let's get an update.
Okay, Josh, thanks a lot. Bad news maybe for the Orioles and the Red Sox. The Yankees have jumped in front of Milwaukee after a Darryl Strawberry walk and steal of second. Tino Martinez rips a single to right off Tim Van Egmond. That scores the straw, and the Yankees lead 1-0 in the second in Milwaukee, trying to snap a 3-game losing streak. Back to you.
Well, both these teams, the Orioles and the Red Sox, very interested in what the Yankees are doing. The Orioles, I think, certainly have more of a claim to being in the race right now than the Red Sox do. Boston's got to be looking at the wild card. B.J. Surhoff at the plate, a 1-ball, 1-strike count. Of course, this is the site of the all-time Major League Baseball comeback. The 1914 Boston Braves came from 16 games back. Slow roller, Jeff Fry drops it. And his quick recovery is in time to capture Surhoff.
Right there, you got an illustration of the difference between shortstop and third base and second base. At second base, you're able to knock the ball down and still recover and make the play. If he had fumbled it a second time, Surhoff would have been saved. But he recovers, straightens, and throws quickly to move on for the out.
Jeff Fry has done a nice job in the field and at the plate for the Red Sox, and they've had a revolving door at that position all year. Will Cordero being injured back in May. He's probably not going to come back till late August. Now Mark Smith, who has fallen beneath that 200 mark. Both these teams figured to be a lot closer in this American League East race than they are right now, Ken. The two teams knocking over that expectation limbo stick pretty much from day one.
Well, Josh, I think, though, that the fact is that the Yankees really haven't hit a bump in the road all season long. Now, they've lost 3 in a row coming into today's game, as they've taken the lead, as Chip Carey informed us. But the fact is the Yankees hadn't lost 2 in a row in almost 2 weeks. And now all of a sudden they've lost 3 in a row. So I think both of these clubs have to hope that they stumble somewhat down the stretch.
Mark Smith waves at a Wakefield knuckler, now drops behind 1-2. Well, the Orioles actually started out 11-2, but they were playing teams that they found later in the season as it went on, the teams that were very beatable teams. And Davey Johnson's club, once they started playing the better teams, the Yankees and the Indians, teams like that, they started losing. Take a look at the Orioles and what they've done against teams under 500. They've cleaned up. 38-18 is their record. But teams that are over 500, they've been just 11-26. And if you get to the playoffs, well, you're going to play teams that are over 500. So you better get good at it right here, right now. Smith getting a piece. Tim Wakefield's knuckleball continues to dance. Look at that grip on the knuckler. Kind of a misnomer when you say knuckleball, isn't it?
It's not the knuckleball. It's actually the fingertips, and you kind of push the ball out. Wakefield has other pitches, though. He throws a pretty good curveball and a surprising fastball from time to time. But his bread and butter pitch is the knuckleball, and it's something he's going to have to learn even better as his career keeps going.
I love Bob Uecker's line on the best way to catch a knuckleball. Just wait till it stops rolling, go to the backstop, and pick it up. And Wakefield supplies the oversized gloves that the catchers use. You see Mike Stanley has a special-made catcher's glove there. A little bit bigger than a regulation or normal catcher's glove. All the better to track down that knuckleball. The velocity of a falling leaf that time from Tim Wakefield.
You know, the pressure's not only on the pitcher to throw the ball near the strike zone or in the strike zone, it's also on the catcher to make the play. Now, this one nowhere near the strike zone. And then the umpire, the pressure's on him to make the call.
Smith bends it foul, stays at 2-2. Well, the coolest thing about the knuckleball, I mean, for decades, players and scientists have tried to figure it out. Research groups at Harvard and Columbia have run all kinds of tests trying to solve the mystery of the knuckleball and how it will react in certain situations. And it's still as big a mystery today as it was 40 years ago.
Now, plus, none of those guys had a bat in their hands.
And Smith takes one here in the shoulder. Didn't appear that he made an incredible effort to fly out of the way of that errant knuckler, but that will end a rather tedious at bat.
Well, last year Wakefield hit 9 batters. And I bet you, just like Smith does right here, they all went directly to first base. Didn't bother to see the trainer or anything.
So Smith, the base runner. And Greg Zaun will get the opportunity. A switch hitting catcher. A valuable commodity. Not getting a lot of playing time, and just the 1 home run, the 9 runs batted in. Goes after the very first delivery. And loping in from center, Troy O'Leary. He will lock it up, and that's the inning. Scoreless as we go to the bottom of inning 2. The glorious green monster, part of Fenway lore. You ever wonder what goes on inside that scoreboard? We're going to ask Richard Maloney right now. He's one of 2 scoreboard guys in there. Well, you're confident that a zero's going up there, I guess, Richard, huh?
Yeah, I've seen a few games. I have a good feeling for what's going on.
How heavy are those things?
Not too heavy.
Can you put it in for us? Show us how it works?
Yeah, you might want to wait till the end of the inning.
Well, it looks like Coppinger is settling down. Let's just put it in there, and if we need to change it... No, I don't want to do that. You'll get in trouble, right?
We get some pull around here.
Any players ever come back there hang out with you?
Yeah, we've been able to swap stories with left fielders in the American League. Anyone from Bo Jackson and Butch Davis. It's pretty funny back here.
That does run the gamut right there.
Richard, I assume you're a Red Sox fan.
Yeah, I am.
Do you ever pick up a number hoping they will score that in the bottom of the inning?
Yeah, I have to admit I've done that. I've been disappointed a few times, but we've had some success.
Well, this we're going the other way here. Holding the 0, maybe they'll do something else.
Oh, here we go.
Aha! Kevin Mitchell swipes at one. And Bobby Bonilla ranging over. Look out. And down the steps without the baseball.
Bobby didn't get much help until he got near that bottom step. You don't expect that when you go into the enemy territory. And Bonilla, his first start at first base this year. And this is a tough play for a first baseman. He knows he might be headed downstairs. If he does go downstairs and make the play, it's an out. But you see, he didn't get any help until he settled down in the Red Sox dugout.
Big Kevin Mitchell, a 300 hitter. Look out, up and in. Our thanks to Richard Maloney, scoreboard guy. I wonder what he puts down on his W-2, though, seriously. Now, how do you explain what that job is?
Well, he must be pretty good with numbers at filling it out, the rest of it.
It'd be pretty hilarious if he just sent those 3-pound tin numbers in a big envelope right around April 15th.
Look at Kevin Mitchell, whose envelope has shrunk somewhat since the last time I saw him. We saw him out at the West Coast in Seattle. He's been working out quite hard to get back in shape.
And he drills it deep into center field, and that ball sails away. Boston takes a 1-0 lead. Mitchell's second home run.
Hey, maybe Richard was right. He flipped it to a 1.
And now he's gunning for 2. Oh, watch Richard in action. Way to go, scoreboard guy. Nothing but a thing, right, Richard? And Mitchell back in the lineup after a while on the DL. He comes through as Mike Stanley steps to the plate, and now a 1-0 game.
Here's a swing by Kevin Mitchell as he follows through. Look at his head down right there, following through on the ball on the swing and hitting the ball out of the ballpark.
Mike Stanley to the opposite field and shallow. Houston called off by the oncoming Mark Smith, and he's got it. First out here in the last of the second. Jeff Manto will be the batter. A guy who's good friends with Mark Smith. They were teammates with the Orioles last year. Jeff Manto, a 31-year-old journeyman. Third baseman by trade, but with John Valentin banged up, Manto getting his chance at short, a position he had played for 1 major league inning before this series began.
Yeah, Valentin out with a sore elbow and shoulder.
He's got the sampler platter of injuries, and Manto gets the opportunity. The irony is, Manto was released by Baltimore this offseason because the front office felt he lacked the range to play third. And that will squirt up the middle for a base hit. Jeff Manto with his 6th hit since coming back from Japan. He was released by his Japanese league team for pretty much the same reason that the Orioles released him. No range.
Here's the base hit and kind of a funny swing. He's looking to see if the ball went up in the air. Well, it's back through the middle for a base hit.
Second baseman.
Watch his head, folks. He doesn't know where this ball is going.
Boom, there it goes.
Oh, here I go. Wow.
Wow, that was all we needed was Shemp on that play. That was tremendous. Jeff Fry, top of the order. Fry, another guy in the middle infield here playing second base. And back to the point about Manto, he gets released by a Japanese league team, by an Orioles team, because they think he doesn't have the range to play third. And he's been playing second base and shortstop for the Boston Red Sox. Bobby Bonilla backpedaling. And up on the tarp, but can't get to it. Jeff Houston joining him there. You got to be careful around that tarp. You see how it is kind of unfurled slightly there. Looks like Houston might have gotten his cleats caught. And he had an interesting play earlier over near that tarp in that series. Went over for a foul pop that he didn't get.
Here's a look at both Bonilla and Houston going for the foul pop-up that neither one will get. Houston's just coming off knee problems, and he runs his right knee into the tarp. As you can see, Bonilla none the worse for wear.
When Houston went over there the other day, he knocked over a plate of nachos, and it had nacho sauce all down the front of his jersey. He actually took a nacho from the guy, swiped it against his jersey, and ate the nacho. A little calling card toss to first. Jeff Manto, his last stolen base was 1994, and we believe that was during the strike.
See that brace that Manto has on his knee, and he's coming off knee surgery this year.
Hard smash into Houston to Alexander. He'll turn it and get his man. That's it, but the Red Sox take the lead. We'll return to Fenway Park after these messages from your local Fox station. Back at Fenway Park, the good-looking guy right here, that's Josh Lewin. Dan DeQuette over here, general manager of the Boston Red Sox, and obviously Ken Singleton further on down the line. We're going to talk to the architect of this Boston Red Sox team here in the third inning, Frank Lloyd. We'll try to figure out what the Red Sox are doing to get back in the race. A slow start, obviously, at 6-19, and finally, things coming around as Manny Alexander takes ball one.
Well, we had a rough start. We had a real poor April, and since then we played pretty good baseball. In the last couple of weeks, we've gotten some better pitching. Wakefield's pitching a good game today, but and you saw Moyer pitch a good game for us last night. Tom Gordon has pitched some good games. Clemens has pitched some good games. And Aaron Seeley's pitched some good games, but we really haven't put it all together with our starters and our relievers until the last couple of weeks, and we've done that, and that's how we've been able to get back a few games on the 500 mark.
Ball and a strike here to Manny Alexander in a 1-0 game.
Duke, you haven't mentioned anything about a hitter so far. I guess the hitting's going okay.
Well, the hitting's gone pretty good. We got some sluggers on the team. We had a few injuries early, but Mo Vaughn has developed into one of the top RBI guys here in the league. He's done a real good job. He's been very steady.
Fly ball, shallow center off the bat of Alexander, and Fry bails out to center fielder Troy O'Leary. Back with a backhanded stab of the ball. And Mike Devereaux will be the next hitter.
And Canseco's done a nice job, too. Those two guys have given us good punch in the middle of the lineup. Jeff Fry's been a good addition to our ball club. He's filling in for Will Cordero, who got hurt earlier in the year. And he's done a nice job. He's a very feisty player. Last night he was on base 5 times, and he ended up scoring 5 runs. And Tim Naring's really come along as a good defensive third baseman. This year he's hitting the ball with more power. Our outfield production with Greenwell hurt, Jefferson has developed into one of the top hitters in the league against right-handed pitching. He'd be among the slugging leaders. Troy O'Leary's done a decent job for us playing all around the outfield. We got Lee Tinsley back. He's done a decent job defensively. And now we have Kevin Mitchell returning to the lineup. And he should add some power, which you saw there early in the game. And our catching's been pretty decent in terms of offensive production with Stanley. So we scored some runs, but our pitching has been inconsistent.
43 players this year, Dan, 53 last year, and the positive thinkers point out that before the Atlanta Braves got stabilized, This is pretty much what they were doing in 1990, tinkering and experimenting until they found just the right combination. When does all the experimentation stop, and when do you get the team that you actually want to carry you into the next millennium?
Well, we're really trying to build up our pitching through the minor league system. We've drafted a lot of New England kids, and we'd like to have the basis of our pitching staff come from some top kids in New England.
Troy O'Leary scopes it out and will make the catch. Troy O'Leary and you go back a ways, I know.
Well, we were together in Milwaukee, and we picked him up last year, and he's done a real solid job. But, you know, if you take a look at our team, and a lot of teams in the major leagues, there's only one team, Atlanta, that has 3 top quality starters, and the rest of the teams are looking around for that type of quality. And until you get that type of quality in your starting rotation, it's hard to put anything together consistently.
You mentioned drafting a lot of young pitchers, and the fact is that a lot of organizations are doing that, trying to get quantity. Maybe they'll get some quality out of it. Is that the same thing as the Red Sox?
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of these pitchers, you know, they say you have to sign 20 to get 2.
Reggie Jefferson fights the wind and brings it in. More with Dan Duquette. More of the Red Sox and Orioles coming. It's the Red Sox 1 and the Orioles nothing at Fenway Park. Last of the third, Josh Lewin along with Ken Singleton. And being joined this inning by Dan Duquette as well. General manager of the Boston Red Sox. He's the guy in the middle of your pick, just like the dating game. Bachelor's number 1, 2, and 3, except I think we're all married.
I've been a bachelor in a long time.
You and me both.
We're married.
Troy O'Leary gets it going. Mo Vaughn and Jose Canseco come up in this bottom of the third inning to follow. And Dan, I guess what a lot of Red Sox fans want to know, with guys like Roger Clemens being talked about, maybe being moved, maybe not. Mike Greenwell has become a 10-5 guy, and we'll explain that in a moment. Ground ball foul. He's got 10 years of Major League service time, 5 with the same club. He has veto power over any trade. Kevin Mitchell's being talked about as trade bait maybe with Cincinnati. What can you share with us about the future of those guys?
Well, in Roger's case, we'd like Roger to stay with the organization. His contract is up this season at the end of the season, and we made it clear to him that we'd like him to stay with the organization. I think Roger has a chance to be the preeminent pitcher in the history of the club, and he realizes that, and we realize that, and we'd like to have him stay with us beyond this season. You know, we got 4 numbers out there in right field, 9, 4, 1, and 8, and they represent a lot of the great Red Sox players, but there aren't any pitchers out there. And I think Roger has a goal to retire his number here in Fenway Park. He's just a few victories short of the all-time victory number for Red Sox pitchers. And hopefully he can do it this year. If not, we hope he'll be back next year.
In the air in the right center field, and Mark Smith waiting. He's got it. Troy O'Leary is out, and Mo Vaughn coming up now. Last year's American League MVP and led the Red Sox to the playoffs. And when the Red Sox clinched the AL East last year, it was Roger Clemens who insisted that Mo ride the police horse around the stadium so all the fans could get a chance to see him. And John Harrington, the Red Sox CEO, was asked, weren't you worried Mo might get hurt doing that? And John Harrington said, actually, I was worried about the horse.
Yeah, that was a great moment for Mo and his great moment for the Red Sox. And we put together a lot of players last year, but Mo was the key player for our ball club on the field last year. He really stabilized the team, and of course he went on and had that great MVP season. And he does a lot more for the team than just drive in runs. He's a great man in the community. He's revered in Boston. He does a lot of good things for the kids through his Mo Vaughn Youth Foundation. And he's really a special player for the Red Sox.
How close are the Red Sox to having Mo Vaughn get back up on a horse again?
Well, that'll depend if we can put together a good streak here. We need to put together a streak and see if we can get back into it. First thing we need to do is get to 500. And in terms of the trades, if we were to get back into it, we would hold on to all our veteran players that you inquired about, the Kevin Mitchells and the Mike Greenwells. But if we can't get back into it, then we'd have to look at some other options for some of these guys that are signed through this year that may not be back.
Would you think about bringing up some of the younger players out of the organization? Or?
Well, we have a couple of pitchers. We've got a good pitcher named Jeff Suppan, who's having a real good year at AAA. He's about ready to help the Major League team. After that, we have a good shortstop, Nomar Garcia-Parra, who's been out for most of the season, and he's back playing at AAA from his injury.
Coppinger with that slider in the dirt, and Mo Vaughn is out for the second time today. Jose Canseco coming up next. Dan, all season, I guess you've had to deal with the criticism. Those who were calling you Boy Wonder last year are now saying, well, heck, this team, it's ill-conceived this year. You've got a lot of guys like Mo Vaughn who take the big cuts, but sometimes come up empty. Not a lot of defense, not a lot of pitching. How do you answer those critics?
Well, in Boston, you know, the fans love a winner, and they love people that help put a winning team on the field. But, you know, the same is true. They get frustrated when they don't have a winning team. So, in regards to our team, we've got an interesting team, an exciting team. We could improve our team with our team defense as well as our pitching. And that's something that we're going to look to do in the offseason.
Now, when you can write Mo Vaughn's name down first in the lineup and build around it, you'll be okay eventually.
Well, I think so. And Vaughn, and you're not seeing John Valentin today. He's been a very steady player for us the last couple of years. He's done a good job at shortstop, and his offensive production has been good. And those two guys have really stabilized the infield and, in effect, the whole team.
Coppinger against Canseco here in a 1-0 game. Red Sox in front, and a foul blasted back. What about the stasis, Stan, just in terms of the coaching staff? Last 15 months, the Sox have gone through 4 pitching coaches, 3 advanced scouts, 3 bullpen coaches, a couple of hitting instructors. Kevin Kennedy, I'm sure, is wondering what else might be coming down the pike. What can you tell us?
Well, we've had a lot of people here, and again, we're trying to get to a point where we have a very stable organization with championship caliber player and people, and we haven't had the continuity yet to this organization. And until we get that right mix, we're going to continue to try a number of things to get ourselves consistently in the first division year in and year out.
Dan Duquette joining us and enlightening us during this Red Sox-Orioles game. We appreciate you coming by, Dan.
Thanks a lot, Josh. I enjoyed it, and have a good game today.
We intend to. You got some extra tickets for us or anything? Do anything up here?
Well, we got a few. You can come down and sit with us right down tomorrow if you want.
I'm headed back to New York tonight, Dan, but I'll send my best wishes to the folks at Montreal. I remember you quite so well.
Yeah, say hello to all my friends there, Kenny. I really enjoyed seeing you.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Dan. Dan Duquette got his dream job. Grew up a Red Sox fan, and now he orders them around. Coppinger to Tim Naring here with a runner on. Naring walked and was stranded in the first inning. The Red Sox loaded the bases, did not score in that first inning, and that got the solo home run from Mitchell leading off the second. Coppinger floats the fastball high, and Rocky Coppinger has been consistently behind in the counts today, Ken.
Well, Josh, you saw he was careful with Canseco on both opportunities. When he fell behind on him, he walked him both times and moved on to Naring. Well, he also walked Naring in the first inning. Let's see if we can get him out here.
Missing away. At the conclusion of today's game, we remind you we'll be selecting the genuine Chevrolet player of the game. You saw Canseco with that lead off at first. We remind you he had that 140 stolen base season, but only has 2 stolen bases this year.
Well, he has a lot of back problems this year, and I think that would slow down anybody. Anybody who's had back problems will know that.
Naring skies one to the left side of the infield. Cal Ripken called off as Manny Alexander drifts all the way back near second. That wind pushing it away. And we'll go away at the end of 3, 1-0. Overcast but pleasant here at Fenway Park today, and the home folks watching a 1-0 Red Sox lead. The Kevin Mitchell home run standing up right now. And standing at the plate, Cal Ripken. Now at third baseman, at least for now. The consecutive game streak overall continues. And as Cal watches a knuckleball in the dirt, we can say it's actually nearing 2,250. 22:49 today. Number 49, Wakefield. Away here to Ripken. Everybody wondering, when is this streak finally going to end? It's been going on for forever. We have it on authority. You read it here first. Ripken Van Winkle will finally retire. What was the date on the masthead? About 50 years away, huh? Ripken with the infield single off Wakefield in the first inning. Only his second career base hit off of Tim Wakefield. And Ripken just watching it all the way. Seemed determined to take there. And you would expect that on 3-0. It's now 3-1.
When you get ahead on a knuckleball pitcher, he doesn't throw the good knuckleball. It's the one he's just trying to get over the plate.
And Cal Ripken pokes it to the opposite field. Kevin Mitchell has got it. And now, let's send it to Chick Carey. We've got a Yankee update.
Indeed we do, Josh. Darryl Strawberry's at it again. He scored in the top of the second inning. Whack, Darryl Strawberry doubles home Gerald Williams. 8 RBIs on the year for Strawberry. Yankees shutting out the Brewers 4-0 now in the bottom of the third. Back to you.
And Darryl Strawberry, a guy that the Orioles had talked about acquiring. Pat Gillick, the Orioles general manager, had dispatched his scouts to check out Darryl Strawberry when he was playing in the Northern League, but the Yankees got there first. They made their move. Just as everybody else in baseball was getting interested, they made sure that Pat Gillick wouldn't be able to strike in there.
Well, another difference between the Orioles and the Red Sox and the Yankees this year, maybe the Yankees a little bit more aggressive in going after players who had a history of some success in the major leagues. Strawberry's one of them. Dwight Gooden another. George Steinbrenner took a chance.
Palmeiro pulls one right at Mo Vaughn. And the big guy will take it to the bag for the second out of the inning.
And I know that George has been criticized heavily in the past for some of the things he's done to meddling with the Yankees, but these two moves, signing players who are popular in New York, and got the job done. Gooden got off slowly. Strawberry seems to have come on with a thunder as he returns to the major leagues.
Bobby Bonilla knows what it's like to play in New York. Now going after one around his neck.
You know, an unusual move here by Bonilla as Stanley can't get this pop foul. He's batting right-handed against a right-handed pitcher. Now Bonilla's a switch hitter, but he chooses to try and pull the ball off of the green monster in left field. The shorter distance of the outfield fences here. And maybe feeling he's a better hitter right-handed against a knuckleball type pitcher in Wakefield. Now this is certainly unusual, and as a switch hitter I wouldn't have done this. I would have hit left-handed against the knuckleball.
Don't interrupt your rhythm. Is that part of it?
You know, I might have thought about it here at Fenway, though, with the left field wall only 315 feet away, and knowing that Wakefield can't throw the ball by you. And basically all you're going to see is knuckleballs. But the fact is that most of the knuckleball pitchers I faced were pitching at places like Texas. Charlie Huff.
And Bonilla takes a swipe at that wall. Into the corner it goes, and it just misses. Not a lot of room for a left fielder to negotiate. Fair and foul are basically coming together as one real quickly down the lines here.
And that's part of the charm of Fenway Park. There's not much foul territory anywhere. The fans are right on top of the action. 310 feet, and they say it might be even closer down the left field line.
Whoop. That one, from the moment it left the fingertip, you just had a feeling it might have ended up in a different zip code.
The radar wouldn't have picked that up.
Now coming back with a fastball away. Well, Bobby Bonilla is a natural right-hand hitter, by the way. This is his natural position. Bonilla laughing it up. There's that room, fair and foul, that we talked about. Whoa, Bobby Bonilla takes a home run cut, but he comes up empty, as do the Orioles. Nothing doing. 1-0 game into the last of the fourth. Red Sox 1, Orioles nothing. You can check it out right there in the lower left of your screen on that American League scoreboard and that big green monster.
Yeah, 37 feet high out there in left field.
Now, where did you learn that, writing on walls like that? That's not nice.
Well, the graffiti, you go around these cities, you see a lot of graffiti, although I'd never partook in anything like that.
Of course not. Reggie Jefferson got himself twisted up there with that big cut against Coppinger and will limp away. There's the other side of the field, right field, and Mark Smith in a lonely valley out there. A lot of room to cover in right at this ballpark.
That fence out there 3 to 5 foot high as it swings around from the bullpen over towards the right field line.
The dimensions make it look like there's not much for a right fielder to do, but remember the center fielder is going to be off into left center most of the time, and that leaves a right fielder like Mark Smith with a lot of room to roam. He's basically going to play right center field and right field.
Well, with a hitter like Jefferson, he hits the ball well to the opposite field. So That's another reason why Devereaux is shifted over towards left center. You can see him on the left side of second base out there in center field. Look at all the room out in right field for Mark Smith to cover. I've been out there. That is not fun.
Coppinger looks like is trying to get Jefferson to do something besides slap it to left center. That's all he's been doing against Coppinger and against a lot of this league.
You can see the foul pole right here. A right fielder actually has to come in on home runs. It's the only ballpark in baseball like that.
Jeff Hewson vacuums that one up on to Bonilla for the out. And now Kevin Mitchell coming to the plate. The big guy back in the second inning. Oh, he launched one.
With the pitch out over the plate, straight away center field up into the bleachers, and a 1-0 lead for the Red Sox. That's the way it stands right now. Mitchell worked out quite a bit in Blythe, Arizona. Lost a lot of weight. He was running in 120-degree temperatures.
If you want to get light, go to Blythe. I mean, that's what the Chamber of Commerce puts out in their mail.
And Kevin told me yesterday that right after the season's over, he's going right back there and going to work out with his workout guru and get in even better shape for next year.
Punches that one into left center field. Down for the base hit in front of Devereaux. And let's go back to Chip Carey right now. He's got an update for us.
Okay, guys, we always show you great offensive plays. How about some superior defense? Dave Magadan at the plate. Mike Morgan's pitch hammered high, hammered hard. Look at the run by Langford. What a grab in right center field. He bangs off the wall. Sammy Sosa was running on the play. Langford's glove saved a run. And the Cubs still enjoy a 1-run lead. Back to you.
And right here, a 1-0 game. Boston over the Baltimore Orioles. Mike Stanley up there, and he whacks one into right field. Mark Smith retreating. As he gets to the track, he hauls it in. You take a look at that wall here at Fenway Park, and some history to that as they built it up. Ballpark actually opened back in 1912, same day Tiger Stadium opened, and by the time they played the first game here, by the way, that was the day the Titanic went down. There's a lot of cynical Red Sox fans point to. They talk about the commercialization these days in baseball. How about then? 1930s, 1940s. Oh, where'd all the advertising go? They took it off of there.
On television.
We're happy to have it there. We just, you know, slider to Manto for a strike. Yes, to all of our fine sponsors, we say thank you for coming off of the wall and into the Fox fold. Veteran Jeff Manto, 1 for 1 today. And again, the slider in for the strike. The old wall. Oh, that's a, what is that, Gem clog-proof razors? Not around anymore. Everything's gone. Manto tries to check his swing, and he does. Works the count to 1-2. You know, in the minor leagues, where Jeff Manto has been for much of his career, anything goes on an outfield wall. I'm surprised they don't have the players walk around with sandwich boards. Light poles have advertising on them, the foul poles at some places. Big rip, and Manto is out of there. So are the Red Sox. Coppinger chases him with the slider. 1-0 ball game. And the game summary brought to you by the United States Postal Service. A 1-0 affair here. Kevin Mitchell's home run standing up at this point. These are the two teams in Major League Baseball that have not thrown shutouts yet this year. Davey Johnson knows all about that. His team down a run. DJ Surhoff takes a look at his strike. The Orioles playing today without Brady Anderson. He's had that bout with what they thought was appendicitis. Roberto Alomar is out of the game as well. He strained the ring finger on his left hand a couple of weeks ago on a Saturday afternoon against the Boston Red Sox. Surhoff ropes one into left center field. That's a base hit. And Surhoff, one of the guys that needs to pick it up here with Anderson and Alomar, both out of the lineup. The 2 weeks ago, Our cameras were there. The Orioles against the Red Sox, and Alomar aggressively will come out of the batter's box here. And he's taken some criticism, Ken Singleton, for this head-first slide. What do you think?
Well, Josh, I don't think you can criticize a player for being aggressive and trying to hustle down the line and beat out a base hit. The fact is that some people thought that it was a stupid type play. Well, Alomar's going to dive into first base, second base when he's trying to steal some bases. I don't think you can criticize any player for hustling. I think you should criticize them when they don't hustle.
Well, that's the thing. Davey Johnson, right from day one of spring training, really wanted to instill into this team. It's the old lyric from the song, you got to have heart. And he wants his team to just put some fear into the opposition. They're going to get their uniforms dirty. They're going to take the extra base. They're going to dive. They're going to knock you over.
I still think the Orioles need a holler type guy. We had a shot of Billy Ripken in the dugout. I think Billy's that type of guy, but the only problem is he doesn't play that often.
Yeah, it's tough to have validation as the holler guy if you're never playing.
Yeah, exactly. There's Bill Ripken.
Knuckleball in to Mark Smith for a strike. That's Cal Ripken's younger brother, and they used to call him Wild Bill. He is more Mild Bill right now. He's gotten married. He has a beautiful daughter. But he will still keep things loose in the clubhouse. He's just not shooting rubber bands at bat boys or anything like that anymore. And the bat boys are very appreciative of that. Mark Smith hit by a knuckleball from Wakefield a little bit earlier in this game. That one came pretty close.
If runners get on base against knuckleball pitchers, that's when things start to get interesting. All knuckleball pitchers usually have good moves at first base. They have to have it, because runners can take liberties on the bases. The catchers have a hard enough time just catching the ball and then having to throw people out.
Smith chasing one, almost leaping out of his spike to go after that knuckler. And that drops harmlessly out of play.
Of course, you have to have the right people on base, and Surhoff does not have a stolen base this year. I'm talking about people like Devereaux or maybe Jeff Houston. Orioles not really much of a stolen base type ball club, and that's kind of ironic because last year Davey Johnson managed in the National League for the Cincinnati Reds, and they led the league in stealing bases.
I think Davey really had that in mind to do here in Baltimore. Tossed it first to keep Surhoff close. I think the thing that Davey has learned, and it took him a month or so to get this in his head, that the American League, the way it's structured, everybody's hitting home runs. And it's the old Earl Weaver credo. If you're hitting the 3-run home runs, why risk guys getting picked off or caught stealing if somebody's going to come up and bomb one out? Knuckler in the dirt, 2 balls, 2 strikes.
I think Davey plays that way for most of the game. Now, we've seen him a couple of times, and what he's done is maybe later in the ball game he'll try and build one more run, and he'll go for the steal from the 7th inning on if he has the right people on base. But primarily in this point of the ball game and early in the game, like most American League managers, they just let the hitters go up there and rip.
Mark Smith rips, and another long at bat for Mark Smith against Wakefield. Take a look here as the wind goes right into the face of it. Catcher Mike Stanley.
And umpire Gary Cederstrom.
Not enough. You got to deal with the knuckleball today. You've got a sandstorm out there. Again, Smith puts one foul. Mark Smith enjoying the chance to be back here at Fenway today. He established himself in baseball when he tore up the Cape Cod Summer League, just a little ways away from here. That back in 1990, became the first player in that league to hit for 100 since they switched from aluminum bats to wood, which was in 1985. And finally, Mark Smith pounds it fair, takes a ricochet off of the wall, and Surhoff skids to a stop at second base. And the jutting wall down there perhaps has come back to bite the Baltimore Orioles here. A ball that, under normal circumstances, at pretty much any other ballpark, goes into the corner, rattles around. At the very least, Smith is at second, Surhoff's at third, but not at Fenway, not with this ricochet.
Well, I mentioned that there are a lot of interesting angles here at Fenway Park. Here's another one. That angle where the stands jut out and the fans are sitting right on top of the action. But every once in a while, we'll cut down a double and make it a single. Here's Surhoff from first to second. Slams on the brakes. He knows he can't go any further. As I said, Josh, that is usually a two-base hit in most ballparks.
Greg Zaun looking to bunt, and I'm assuming that it's probably not the easiest thing in the world to bunt a knuckleball pitcher.
I don't think I've ever tried it.
Really?
No, I don't think I ever got the bunt sign with a knuckleballer on the mound.
Did you get the bunt sign a lot anyway?
No, not very often.
Zaun tries to take it with him. And this is something that I'm sure Greg Zaun in his young career hasn't really come across that much. And here's Sam Perlazzo, the third base coach, trying to come down the line and help out Zaun, the art of bunting a knuckleball.
Well, Mo Vaughn's going to be able to charge as the knuckleball comes in. We'll watch this pitch. Trying to bunt it towards Mo Vaughn. Well, he's getting it further away from third base, but Mo Vaughn's able to charge a little bit harder. Make things difficult on the defense is to bunt it towards third.
This time swinging, and he pounds it foul.
Maybe that was the meeting.
Yeah. All right, Greg, looks like this bunting thing isn't going real well. Why don't you just swing?
Either that or he missed the sign and you're up here hitting, trying to move the runners around with the bat. He's got 2 strikes now, so you got to figure he's going to be swinging away anyway. Sam Perlazzo.
He's the guy that waved Ken Griffey home as the Mariners got into the playoffs last year. And that thrilling 5-game series against the Yankees had that windmill action going. Go home, Griffey. And he scored the winning run. Vaughn fouls it back to the screen.
Think about Sam. He was all the way out in Seattle working for the Mariners and his good friend Lou Piniella. Well, he's from Maryland, from Cumberland, Western Maryland. And of course, Maryland's the type of state you can go all the way to Ocean City to Cumberland, from the ocean to the mountains. And there's a lot of different scenery in between, including Baltimore.
Vaughn reaches out, and Wakefield's got a chance to turn two. Manto has turned it back to Vaughn in time. The makeshift shortstop with a quick release, and Wakefield now has just Surhoff at third to contend with, and a former third baseman, Jeff Manto, made a nice play.
Well, Manto making a nice play, filling in at shortstop for John Valentin. It's interesting because Manto, the other night, he started at shortstop. Last night against the Orioles, as he turns this double play, and Cal Ripken was at third. He was going to take down both lineups and have Cal sign him. Here's a throw on the first, and there's your double play. Because when Manto was with the Orioles, he played third, and Cal played short.
And Manto says of all the thrills of being an everyday player last year, playing for the Orioles, the biggest thrill he had was the chance to go out there and stand next to Cal Ripken day in, day out. There's Cal sitting down in that dugout. Jeff Manto, when he was in college, he had Cal Ripken's milk growth chart poster in his room sophomore year. Big cut from Annie Alexander, not close on the knuckleball. And Jeff Manto says that back when he was playing with the Indians, he actually told Cal that during a game, and Cal, I think he was nice about it. It was kind of like, uh-huh. But it didn't really do anything for his day. In to pick it is Tim Naring. On across to Vaughn, and Tim Wakefield out of what could have been a scary inning. We're halfway through, 1-0. Back in Fenway Park, it's time to recall Ted Williams and John Updike. Updike wrote, "The air was soggy. The season was exhausted. A density of expectation hangs in the air," unquote. And Ted Williams did not disappoint. He homered in the last at-bat of his splendid career. For Updike, immortality is non-transferable. Gods do not answer letters. Yeah, but they do have their numbers retired. And there it is, out there in right field. Joe Cronin, Bobby Doerr, and Yaz, number 8, Carl Yastrzemski. Jeff Fry, the batter, and I don't think he makes any bones about his number 3 ever getting up there on that wall. He's just here to keep the Red Sox in it and call back some of the halcyon days when those numbers, 9, 4, 1, and 8, were running around out there. Ted Williams is the guy that most Red Sox fans recall. And look at those numbers. 19 years of wonderment here in Boston, 2-time Triple Crown winner. in that incredible 1941 season. He hit .406. He had 37 home runs, 120 runs batted in. And the thing that nobody talks about, Ken, he had 145 walks that year, only 27 strikeouts.
Didn't get the MVP either. 1941, I went to Joe DiMaggio. Hit 56 straight games.
With the runner on, here's Troy O'Leary. And the strike at the knees from Coppinger. Jeff Fry, the runner at first, has only one steal this year, and that was last night. He was on base 5 times in that ball game, scoring 5 runs. The Red Sox rolled 13-2. Coppinger missing with the fastball.
Well, the Orioles got the leadoff runner on with a base hit in the top half of the inning. The Red Sox have done it here in the bottom half of the 5th inning with a base on balls. The difference being that well, the Orioles hit their way on. Coppinger has walked the man on, so he's looking to find the strike zone. And sometimes after you walk people, you find too much of the strike zone. And the hitters would take advantage.
On the ground, and they're calling it foul. Bobby Bonilla speared it. And pay no attention to what happened at second base. It doesn't count, but it was pretty interesting.
It is interesting because it probably wouldn't have happened to Cal Ripken. If Fry had run into him, he wouldn't have knocked him over. Fry might have been on the ground.
Well, Jeff Fry will not be confused with Emmett Smith here. He just he's a little guy, and he bangs into a little guy, and down it goes.
He went out of his way, didn't he? I mean, he came off the bag to run him over.
Unless he was just trying to get away from the baseball, which was coming over there, too. 5'9", 165, Jeff Fry. Smashing into Manny Alexander.
The camps are open.
Yeah, weigh-in is in about 15 minutes. Rocky Coppinger, to keep the boxing reference going, take the height difference there between Bonilla and Jeff Fry. Coppinger got his nickname off of a pretty good New England fighter by the name of Rocky Marciano. Into the alley, left center field. And Devereaux finally playing it off the wall. Around comes Jeff Fry. He's going to be waved. And as the ball comes in, it's not nearly in time. 2-0, Boston.
Well, remember what I said about a pitcher eventually coming into the strike zone making too good of a pitch after walking somebody. Exactly what happened with O'Leary at the plate. Fry's at first base, on there with a base on balls. A pitch out of the plate. O'Leary drives it to the gap in left center field. And Dave Oliver, the third base coach, did not hesitate to send Fry home as he rounded third. There's Devereaux coming up with it as the Orioles get the ball back in. And there's your run scoring. 2-0, Boston.
And the second time today, Coppinger's allowed a double to Troy O'Leary. Now he faces Mo Vaughn. And not afraid to come in there for strike one. Wow, at Fenway Park. Puts the monster in a monster here, although obviously a lot of those home runs, most of them, screaming out to right field. Opposite way this time in foul territory. Cal Ripken with the wind helping him out. Keeps that ball in the air, and Cal takes care of it. Jose Canseco the next to the plate. The first baseman goes back. The DH comes up. And we've heard a lot of talk about the designated hitter. Bobby Bonilla doesn't like it. We know that on the Orioles side. Canseco has fit into that role. Ken Singleton fit into that role one time. But what do you think, Ken? Should the DH survive?
Should the DH be abolished is the question. And I would say yes. You know, I know a lot of people feel that DH should hold on and stay. But I got a feeling that the DH should be abolished. And they give you my reason. I think games have gotten much too long. The fact is American League pitchers do not have outs to pitch to like they do in the National League. That lower third of the order is a breather for National League pitchers, especially when the pitcher gets up there. They don't have that in the American League. That's why you have games that last longer. Pitchers get used and stay in games longer because they don't have to be taken out with pitch hitters.
Big rip for Jose Canseco here, and he fouls it away. Well, I'll play point counterpoint with you. Well, you know, if that's the case, there's Canseco and what he lends to this game, with the 23 home runs this year. Harold Baines would not have a job right now. Martinez would probably, well, they'd find a place for Martinez, but he's not a great defensive player, nor is Geronimo Barola. Chili Davis can't do anything but DH. I don't want to see those guys unemployed. They can hit.
They can hit, but I'm sure that they would find a place for them to play if they had to. That's why other guys come in and be their caddies defensively.
Boy, Coppinger again right at Jose Canseco.
And I think if you want to see the pressure taking off pitching, I mean, pitching's going to get even thinner. And if you keep the DH going, there's going to be some monster season. How many guys are going to drive in 100 runs this year?
A lot.
Yeah. How many guys are going to hit 30 home runs this year?
A few.
Yeah, quite a few.
All right, but is that wrong? I mean, to me, I'll stay an extra 10 minutes at a ball game if I can see 2 or 3 extra runs that day.
Well, that's good, but you might see some pitchers break down that you might want to see too, because they leave them in ball games in the American League and let them pitch and pitch and pitch, and you get 140, 130 pitch totals, and that's how pitchers break down. And
how about fixing up that strike zone a little bit? Make it easier to throw a strike, and then the pitchers don't get blown out as easy.
They're not going to do that. We're not talking about that. We're talking about the DH.
That's the ballot for next week.
Okay.
Coppinger and Jose Canseco in a showdown here, 1-2. Still 1-2 as Canseco fouls it back.
Believe me, I enjoy watching Jose Canseco hit. And if you'd asked me that same question a few years ago when I was playing, I probably would have said no, because I was a DH for a period of time. But now I've watched what has happened in baseball over the last few years, and the way the pitching has thinned out and the way the hitters just are jumping all over them. And you're talking to a former hitter. And I just feel that the DH has served its purpose.
Another foul by Canseco. Oh, thank you, Commissioner.
And National League games are shorter. I think they're more interesting in certain ways because the managers have to make more moves. There's more double switches. I think it makes it more interesting for the fans.
I would just hate to see a guy like Jose Canseco get fewer at-bats over the course of a season.
You know, I would too. You know, but that happened to me too. They replaced me in the outfield from time to time, and I think that's what happened. The Red Sox had the lead. The 7th inning, Jose get the rest of the day off.
You got to look at wall cam there, monster cam, just a moment ago, right behind B.J. Surhoff. He's back in left field for the first time in a while. That's not an easy transition. Just wander on back there to left field. And oh, by the way, there's a 37-foot-high wall behind you. Well, this is some kind of showdown here, and the Canseco-Coppinger fury has continued throughout the ballgame. Canseco worked him for a walk in the first, worked him over for a walk in the third.
See Jose trying to stretch that back out. It's been giving him problems, and right now he has fouled off several pitches. Really hasn't had a good pitch to hit today, and he's walked twice. He's spoiled the tough ones and hung in there to grab walks the first 2 times up.
Runner at second here. Now Coppinger comes with the slider and misses. Canseco again, the kind of guy that will just lean right out there and challenge a pitcher to come at him, back him off the plate. Coppinger, at 22 years old, has not been scared to do just that. You see him open up his stance here. And taps it on the ground to Cal Ripken. And after looking back the runner, finally retires Jose Canseco. It's the first time today that Coppinger has won that battle. And the sci-fi invasion has begun with Out of This World Tuesday on Fox. What if our government was conducting secret experiments to create a new life form? Well, the Alien Nation trilogy continues with the Fox original motion picture, Alien Nation, Body and Soul. This Tuesday at 8, 7 Central.
Well, there's some people who might think that the government was behind the DH to begin with.
I know you feel that way. Oliver Stone in the booth with us, ladies and gentlemen. Jose Canseco with quite an at-bat before he finally was retired by Rocky Coppinger.
Coppinger made a good pitch. Slider down and away. Got him.
Now to Tim Naring. Well, Rocky Coppinger wasn't drafted until the 19th round. Tim marrying a guy that has come along through this Red Sox system. And here is an everyday player. Pretty steady numbers here. High, it's hop fly. And Manny Alexander, he's the captain of the infield now at shortstop. Takes command and has the baseball to end the inning. A run scores. And the Red Sox have the lead at 2-0. Top of the order coming up for Baltimore. 2-0 ball game as we get to the 6th inning, and the Orioles without Roberto Alomar as their leadoff hitter today.
There's that damaged digit on his left hand that from that slide in Baltimore a couple of weeks ago. Didn't keep him out of the All-Star game, though. Robbie played in the All-Star game.
Mike Devereaux steps in instead today in the leadoff spot. Brady Anderson normally might have a chance to be the leadoff hitter, obviously, but Brady Anderson under the weather and then some. There was the speculation yesterday as he was in the hospital. He might have to have his appendix out. He might be lost 4 to 6 weeks. But Brady's on his way to the ballpark today. Was released from the hospital this morning. And they're going to continue to monitor Brady Anderson today. His doctor here in Boston will make a house call to the hotel tonight. So Mike Devereaux gets the opportunity at Fenway today. Fabulous, historic, and packed Fenway Park. Big cut, and Devereaux, wow, was either in pain or embarrassed as he swung through that knucklet.
He was nowhere near that. Well, Wakefield's got a pretty good rhythm going this ball game. Well, that one did the old double sliver on the way to the plate.
And another one where Devereaux just, well, you might as well just close your eyes and take a cut. I mean, this is when that knuckleball is on, and today with the wind whipping around, you got to think that the currents are carrying that baseball, making it do some strange things.
Well, look at all the paper flying around the ballpark,
yeah,
too.
Carrying some hot dog wrappers and things around now, too. Got a hold of that one, and Jeff Manto on to Mo Vaughn, and we'll now go back to Chip Carey. He's got an update for us, Chip.
Okay, Josh, thanks a lot. The Indians are trailing at the Jake, but guess what? Albert Belcampier, his 32nd home run of the year. He's one behind Mark McGwire. Bad news for the Indians, though. They trail Scott Allred and the Twins 5-2 in the 5th. Back to you.
Chip, thanks. And Brady Anderson, who's a spectator today, watching this game on TV like everybody else, he's got an interest in that home run race. Brady's got to get healthy again, get back in there. Jeff Houston stands in. Knuckleball flutters a bit high.
Josh, I know you remember Mickey Rivers. He was with the Yankees years ago. Boy, that one broke quite a bit as well. Facing Charlie Huff, and he took 3 knuckleballs right down the middle for strikes, and he came back to the bench. They asked Mickey, why didn't you swing? He said, I just like to watch it float by.
Mickey, I think, kind of likes to just watch life kind of float by.
Well, he was a character, but he could play.
Young fans enjoying their Red Sox today. Not sure who he's rooting for. Couldn't recognize that one. Houston pulls even the count here. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Houston today 0 for 2. It's popped out a couple times. Once again, a chance for Jeff Manto. Getting all kinds of work out there at shortstop today and takes care of his friend Jeff Houston. The former Baltimore Oriole, Jeff Manto. The guy who's fought through some things. Getting released several times. Here's a guy that will never get released, Cal Ripken. And where does he hit him? Let's find out.
Well, that's somewhat surprising. 57 to left, only 15 to right. It shows that Cal has really changed as his career has moved along. He used to hit a lot more hits towards right center and right field.
Why do you figure he's reaching out and pulling everything
well,
out?
he's kind of what they like to say, reaches out, hooks the ball, and pulls it towards left. It could work here at Fenway Park. It works at Camden Yards with the short left field fence.
That knuckleball singing an aria. And he did go through for the 0-2 count.
Watch it dip at the very end, over the top as the ball goes underneath the bat.
More arias, but this time a foul ball sliced back.
That's interesting. We showed hits by direction. The Red Sox defensively in the outfield. Jefferson's over near the line, but Kevin Mitchell's over towards the line in right field.
Inside to Ripken, now a ball, 2 strikes.
The gaps are really big in left center and over in right center as we pan towards the right field before we get to Mitchell. Well, all the way over here. A lot of room for O'Leary to cover in center.
Cal reaches out and bounces it right to Mo Vaughn. Wakefield covering, and another quick and easy inning for the knuckleballer. On to the bottom of the 6th. Jefferson, Mitchell, and Stanley coming up. Well, the Red Sox with some fine pitching today. They've had a history of some fine pitching. And it all started, some would say, with the immortal Babe. Babe Ruth was not just the prolific home run hitter. He was a pitcher for the Boston Red Sox. And they sold him, of course, to the Yankees, December of 1919. All Red Sox fans will be able to tell you about that. We look on as Reggie Jefferson gets ready to go against Rocky Coppinger.
Hey, Josh, did you check out that video? Did you see it? Oh, look at, they should have changed his name.
Why?
I'll tell you, because if you look at the whole video there, the Babe was up on the roof.
Oh, my goodness. Jeff Houston over to Bobby Bonilla. Reggie Jefferson is out.
You know, I wonder if the drifters were around in those days.
I think that's where they got the idea for the hit. What was he doing up there, though, do you figure? Why take that shot up there on a roof? Well, maybe because Harry Frazee was financing a musical. He was financing a play. Maybe it was Fiddler on the Roof that he was actually trying to finance when he sold the guy. Had Babe Ruth stayed here,
wow,
could he have hit it to the skyline one day?
We'll never know.
Nope. Well, Kevin Mitchell pumped one out of here. A Ruthian clout into the center field bleachers back in the 2nd inning.
Mitchell uses a Ruthian-type bat. That is a big piece of lumber.
Looks like you got it from a redwood tree.
Well,
seriously.
I was going to say it's only one bat per tree.
Save a forest. Release Kevin Mitchell.
Well, if Kevin leaves Boston, I think he'll get some action somewhere else.
Well, Cincinnati very interested in him. A towering fly ball, and Jeff Houston will battle the wind and the sun and win the battle.
This is not a fun ballpark for a fielder.
Number 22.
Time for today's Men in Trivia question. Multiple choice today. The last time the Red Sox won the World Series, who was president? Look at choice A. A colony of England back in '71. You can choose from Teddy Roosevelt in 1903, Franklin Roosevelt in 1933, or Woodrow Wilson in 1918. We'll have the answer for you coming up. Mike Stanley at the plate. It only seems like he's been around in baseball since the Wilson administration.
Who comes up with those questions? Do you write those, John?
No, I think that comes right from the White House. At least this week's does.
Mike Stanley hit a home run here last night. That was the 100th home run of his career. A shot to the deep right center.
Fastball from Coppinger. And one of the things that baseball purists have got to like watching Coppinger, here's a young kid and just a good old-fashioned fastball. One of the things you hear talked about these days is the depth of good fastballs. Not a lot of exceptional young fastball gunslingers around right now. Some relievers, obviously, the Troy Percivals of the world. And we will rewrite the definition of the phrase towering. And Bonilla takes command, has the baseball to end the inning. That is 6 in a row retired by Rocky Coppinger. At the end of 6, Boston 2, the Baltimore Orioles nothing. The answer to today's Men in Trivia question, who was president of the U.S. when the Red Sox last won the World Series? A lot of good answers there, but it was D. Woodrow Wilson, 1918. Nice hat. Isn't Wilson on the, what is he, on the $100,000 bill?
Well, let me check. No, it's not him.
Can you break $1 million? Rafael Palmeiro against the knuckleball stylings of Tim Wakefield, and nothing doing.
There's only been 2 innings where Wakefield has allowed a hit. He allowed one in the first inning, an infield single to Ripken, then back-to-back hits in the 5th and got out of that with a double play. He's been tough.
And he's only walked once in this game today.
Well, he's had pretty good control. And the thing about a knuckleball pitcher, not only do you have to deal with him, the next day you're all out of rhythm.
Grounder right to Mo Vaughn for an easy first out here in the 7th inning. The Orioles had threatened in the 5th. They had 2 on, nobody out. The Greg Zahn failing to get a bunt down. Swung away, wrapped into a double play that Wakefield turned. And since that point, ground out, ground out, ground out, ground out, ground out. Now Bobby Bonilla will come up trying to break the string.
And once again, Bobby's going to hit right-handed against Wakefield.
Bobby Bonilla today, a fly ball to left and a strikeout. The only strikeout that Wakefield has, along with the 1 walk. Up and in with the knuckleball here to Bobby Bonilla.
The thing about Wakefield makes it difficult to hit his motion. He has that little hesitation just before he delivers the pitch.
Bonilla's on this one, and there it goes. Bobby Bonilla has hit it off the top of the monster. He'll motor on towards second base and gets the Orioles a 1-out double. About 30 feet up on a 37-foot high wall. And Bonilla will set it up now for B.J. Surhoff. It is only the 4th hit today for the Orioles.
B.J. Surhoff.
Well, maybe that's the reason why Bonilla is hitting right-handed against Wakefield. Finally gets one he can handle. As a knuckleball, one of those knuckleballs that kind of just moves in the same area. Doesn't really dart or dive as it comes to the plate. Bonilla gets pretty good wood on it, and he knows it's extra bases.
Ball 1 to B.J. Surhoff, who singled his last time up, sliced one in the left center. The Orioles running out of outs. Surhoff rakes it. Great play by Mo Vaughn. And Bonilla's got to hustle back in. He looked like he was stunned. He was a deer in the headlights. He couldn't imagine that Mo Vaughn had made that play, but he did.
Well, one of the keys to Mo Vaughn making that play is the fans react behind the first base bag. And with Surhoff at the plate, Bonilla is still at second. Mo Vaughn was guarding the line a bit. Remember, the Red Sox are up by 2. And Surhoff represented the tying run. So Mo Vaughn with some dexterity over there at first base. Look at his line shot. Mo, kind of a headlong dive, and holds on to it, robbing Surhoff of extra bases.
Mo better keep Hernandez right at the line, and then from the tush throws him out. And back to live action. Base hit Mark Smith, and around comes Bonilla. The throw in is on line, and Bonilla tries to dance in there and can't do it. Super throw from center field. O'Leary guns down Bobby Bonilla. Still the Orioles do not score. The base hit by Mark Smith gives them nothing. At the stretch, still 2-0. He's been doing some throwing.
A good throw by O'Leary to throw Bonilla out at the plate. Red Sox much maligned on their defensive abilities this year, but they come up with 2 big plays in the last inning to help out Wakefield.
Manto hopping after the first pitch and blasted foul. Take a look at that play to end the Orioles' threat.
I think Mike Stanley set up, doesn't give Bonilla anything to go for. Really out in front of the plate and makes the tag, and the inning's over. Bonilla out easily at home plate.
Sliders away. It's been a diet of those all day to Jeff Manto from Rocky Coppinger. Changed it up. Did Coppinger. to Jeff Manto, veteran player.
Here's a look at Bonilla rounding third, getting the green light from Sammy Palazzo. Here's the throw to the plate. It's going to be waiting on it. There was nothing for him to go after. All he could do was slide in there. Sometimes a hitter or a runner will run over a catcher.
Manto slams it into center, right in front of Mike Devereaux for a base hit. We get the bottom of the seventh going. Now let's go back to Chip Carey in Hollywood for an update.
Okay, guys, thanks a lot. The Brew Crew starting to come back on those dreaded New York Yankees. Jeff Cirillo, almost a broken bat, it sounded like. Little dribbler through the whole left side. Scores Fernando Vina. It's now 4-2. Yankees lead in the fifth inning at County Stadium.
And right here, 2-0, Red Sox over the Orioles. Both these teams, you can make a case for them being well alive in the wild card race. They need the Yankees to start losing some games if the AL East is for the taking. Manto is on the move, and Fry skies one into left center field. Mike Devereaux has it, sending Manto retreating to first. This copyrighted telecast presented by authority of the Office of the Commissioner of Baseball may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form without express written consent.
Josh, I was saying that sometimes a runner will run over the catcher or run into him trying to knock the ball away, but you see that more often when you represent the tying run or the go-ahead run. In this case, Bonilla wanted to play again tomorrow because you get hurt running into the catcher just as much as the catcher can be injured.
Rocky Coppinger and Greg Zaun, the Oriole battery here today. A couple of young guys against what is overwhelmingly a veteran team for Boston. Now Davy Johnson, after some time was taken off the clock, so to speak, will go on out to the mound. Looks like we'll have action in the Oriole bullpen. Jesse Orozco's been up and throwing. Jesse Orozco, who played with Davy Johnson when they were with the New York Mets. Red Sox fans remember Jesse Orozco for being in that '86 World Series and, in fact, closing it out. Coppinger's had a long day with 109 pitches, and he won't stay around to see 110. He is undefeated, at least for now, just like his namesake, Rocky Marciano, but he's on the ropes. Down 2-0. Coppinger is out of the game, was trying to paint the corners and paint himself a victory today, but he is a bit of an artist, even if he's not out there now. Look at that. Quasimodo from the Hunchback of Notre Dame on the team flight out of here. The Orioles are having their family trip. Wives and kids invited along. One of the kids on board loaned Rocky Coppinger a Hunchback of Notre Dame coloring book, and there, as the in-flight card games raged around him, there's this 250-pound macho fireballer, Rocky Coppinger, trying to stay within the lines. Jesse Orozco trying to keep the Orioles in this ballgame.
I know that Rocky's out of the game now, but he kept the Orioles in this game. I mean, holding the Red Sox to 2 runs in 6 and the 3rd inning is nothing to be ashamed of in Fenway Park. Unfortunately, he's on the short end of the score. Wakefield's been even better.
Orozco to Troy O'Leary. And missing low. Jesse Orozco's ERA would be a heck of a lot better than 5.1 were it not for 8 runs allowed in officially no innings of work in a memorable or perhaps forgettable game against Texas earlier this year. The Orioles lost 26-7. Two strikes to count, or check that, 1 ball, 1 strike to count here to Troy O'Leary.
To back that up with Orozco, he has allowed only 2 earned runs in his last 17 outings.
Takes a long way, though, to shave that ERA down. In the air to left center once again from Troy O'Leary. And the wind makes Surhoff charge on in to collect it. He does. Jeff Manto scurries back to first. Mo Vaughn will be coming up. Another fantastic year coming off the MVP season of last year.
Well, you can see his American League rank in average, home runs, and in RBIs. Yeah, still an outside shot at the Triple Crown. I asked Mo about the categories and which one he would like to lead the league in. And his answer was interesting. He said RBIs because it's more of a team thing.
Big cut, couldn't catch up with the lefty, Jesse Orozco.
He said the home runs are nice. You know, they're nice, but it's more of an individual thing. A team thing with the RBIs means that the other guys are getting on base and scoring. He said batting averages, you know, didn't really appeal to him. There's Jim Rice, who got 2/3 of the Triple Crown back in 1978, the hitting coach here with the Boston Red Sox.
Mo Vaughn, who, by the way, is a career 1 for 13 against Jesse Orozco. He's even in the count 1-1.
That's Jim's year in 1978. I asked Jim about it. He said, well, I led the league in home runs. I led the league in RBIs. Just one time he wanted to lead the league in batting average. He says, I didn't run well enough to do it. By the way, that year that he lost out, 2/3 of the Triple Crown, Rod Carew led the American League in hitting.
Al Oliver right up there, too. 2 balls and a strike to Mo Vaughn. The hit dog is what they call him, and he has been a proverbial Cujo this season, gunning for that 2nd straight MVP award. The numbers are MVP caliber, but as long as Boston's 14 out, can you justify sliding the award that way? It would be unusual. Vaughn against Orozco, can't catch up with the soft slider.
We're talking about should Mo Vaughn get the MVP if the Red Sox are that far out. As we take a look at this last pitch, slider down and away. Well, when Ripken won his 2nd MVP, where did the Orioles finish that year?
Pretty far back.
Yeah, they did.
Andre Dawson, a couple of years before that with the Cubs, with those, what was it, 49 home runs? There's a shot. Manny Alexander is only able to deflect it, and he goes and gets it to hold runners at 1st and 2nd. A whistling line drive, and Manny Alexander unable to stop it from going through. Yes, Manny Alexander is short, not Cal Ripken.
Here's a look at that line drive. Another pitch out over the plate. Mo's ready for this one. Manny Alexander looks like he should have had it. Almost tore his glove off, but let's see how they're going to score that one. So far, nothing as of yet on the scoreboard.
Well, keep in mind that ever since Cal Ripken has moved to 3rd and Manny Alexander's been at short and whoever's been at 2nd, there has been an error up the middle for the Orioles in every single ballgame.
Wow.
The curse of Cal.
Well, I wouldn't call it that. What I would call it is, you know, people being moved around and not familiar with each other in the middle infield.
All right, how's this for a curse of Cal? The opposing teams now, since this switch has been made, they've made 3 infield errors. All of them by the shortstop. 2 balls hit by Cal Ripken, the other by Billy.
Oh.
I think there's something pretty psychically weird about it.
Now, Jose Canseco has made an adjustment here. He was hitting differently against Rocky Carpenter. He had more of an open stance. Against Orozco, a left-hander on the mound, he has closed that front foot. So Jose more with a straightaway stance against the left-handed pitcher. And sometimes, lately, he's been changing his stance during the at-bat. That left foot was more over here in his previous at-bat.
That's an imposing figure up there against Jesse Orozco. 2 on. Big cut. A lot of those this series from Jose Canseco. You saw what he's been doing with the power numbers a moment ago.
By the way, they gave Mo Vaughn a base hit on that play.
Check your Fox box upper left. Those red dots represent the runners at 1st and 2nd. 2 down in a 2-0 game, last of the 7th.
Well, here's a chance for the Red Sox maybe to put this game away, if you can put a game away at Fenway Park.
Well, you make a great point. Earlier this week, it was 9-2 Boston in the 7th against the New York Yankees, and then the Sox had to rally with 3 off of John Wetland to win it in the bottom of the 9th.
And that's something that hasn't happened in a month of Sundays where John Wetland has given up a lead. What, 24 straight saves? Major league record in 24 appearances.
Canseco again with a deep count, a lot of foul balls. Most of the folks that have gotten souvenirs today have Jose to thank. Slow start this year, but he's been a wrecking ball these last several weeks. He had 10 home runs in May, 10 in June. He's kept right on going here in July. 28 homers for the year now. Got 72 runs batted in. The veteran Orozco against the power-hitting Jose Canseco. 2-2, 2 on, 2 out. And Houston decides to take it at his own base. The Orioles sneak away. Still a 2-0 game. Tim Wakefield shook off some early inning rust, and he's been terrific today. The Red Sox in front 2-0, and they make some defensive changes. Troy O'Leary is now in left field, being bumped over from center. And get a shot at him there from the scoreboard cam that we've got today. Greg Zahn can't get the knuckleball, 0-1. Lee Tinsley now playing center field for the Boston Red Sox, and everything else stays the same. There's Mr. Tinsley out there.
Well, he's supposedly the best defensive outfielder the Red Sox have.
Knuckleball high to Greg Zahn.
Mr. O'Leary did a pretty good job in center field throwing out Bonilla.
Yeah, his 6th outfield assist already this year. Now O'Leary in left. Tinsley in center. Greg Zahn up there as you watch on from the pretty cool camera that they put in there today. Zahn, a guy that as a kid didn't break 100 pounds till he was in the 9th grade. He used to hang on chin-up bars, hoping that would help to stretch him out and help him grow. The parents of Greg Zahn used that as, I guess, kind of an impetus. They used that desire of Greg's to their advantage. They tell him, if you take out the garbage, he'll grow. A shot in the right field, and Mitchell leaps up to get it. He almost came screaming in too far. And he knows it.
Hang with him, Mitch. I'll tell you, he's not going to remind anybody of Dewey Evans out there, the many-time Gold Glove right fielder for the Boston Red Sox.
Pitching for the Orioles, number 29, Luis Polonia.
Wow.
Nice play. I mean, just to make that play.
Well, they had him in left field the other day. And some folks reading into that saying maybe that's an audition for the Cincinnati Red Scout that's here. So that's where he would play, assumably. Pinch hitter here for the Orioles. Luis Polonia steps in. Manny Alexander done for the day. I want to give Polonia, a very good contact hitter, a chance against Wakefield.
So I guess this means Cal Ripken goes back to shortstop next thing, doesn't it?
In the air to left. Troy O'Leary has that one. Well, we would assume that. You know what happens to those of us that assume, however. Next week on Fox Saturday Baseball, hard-hitting Albert Bell leads the Indians into Baltimore to take on Rafael Palmeiro and the Orioles. It's exclusive Saturday afternoon baseball beginning at 12:30 Eastern, 11:30 Central, 2:30 Central, 12:30 Pacific. Check local listings. Mike Devereaux, top of the order for the Orioles now. Devereaux, part of a World Series champion last year in Atlanta. Part of the reason the Orioles wanted him here is that veteran experience. Up the middle, Devereaux is on with 2 outs in the inning. 2-0 ball game. The tying man will hit. Jeff Houston scheduled to come up. Not exactly a power threat.
Second baseman, Jeff
Well, here's that knuckleball, but this one stays about belt high in the middle of the plate. Manta was playing way over towards the hole, expecting any right-handed hitter to pull the ball, and the middle was wide open.
Devereaux with some decent speed. He's a runner on for the Orioles. Jeff Houston with that open stance against Tim Wakefield. And the ball getting away, not far enough for the runner to advance. Devereaux hangs out at first.
You see the knuckleball grip inside of the glove, and the pitch on the way to the plate and darting away from Mike Stanley. Quickly off with the mask, and when you're down by a run or two, at least 2 runs, you don't take any chances on the bases. Remember, the tying run is at the plate. On
deck is Cal Ripken. I would think Houston's job here, Ken, is just to get on, set the table, give the big boppers in the lineup a chance to do their work.
Well, speaking of work, the Red Sox bullpen is up and busy. That's Mike Stanton, the left-hander.
He's been the workhorse.
And he Cliff Slocum had been throwing. Now he's kind of slowed things down a bit.
Kevin Kennedy has never had a finish of beneath second place anytime he's managed. Houston pops it towards the third baseman, Tim Naring, with that wind pushing it. Has it right at the line, and Cal Ripken does not come up in the eighth. They'll have to save him for the ninth. Going to the bottom of the eighth, still 2-0. At Fenway, beautiful Fenway Park, what John Updike once called a lyric little bandbox of a park. A compromise between man's Euclidean determinations and nature's beguiling irregularities. It was pretty irregular to see Cal Ripken at third, so why not move him back to short for an inning or so? He does go to shortstop now because B.J. Surhoff has come in to play third base. Luis Polonia stays in the game and plays left. Manny Alexander, the odd man out. Surhoff back to a position he's more used to, and Polonia plays a pretty good left field. Well, it's been a while since he's played this particular left field. Not an easy left field to just pick up again. Well, let's go to Tim Naring. And a strike called from Gary Cederstrom.
It's interesting, that quote you had from John Updike about Fenway Park. And
that's very poetic.
No, certainly.
I mean, you know. Polonia was playing shallow, or rather deep. He has to come in to make that play. I was going to say he should have been playing shallow for that one, but he was able to run it down anyway. And now Lee Tinsley to the plate.
The only thing is, when you're playing left field at Fenway Park, when you're playing deep, you are shallow.
I think that's what confused me. We'll take a look here as Polonia raced. That's our view from inside the Green Monster. Doing a nice job in there.
While we had Dan Duquette here earlier in the ball game, he mentioned the fact that they might be thinking about a new ballpark here in Boston. Well, Fenway's been around a long, long time.
Ball and no strikes here to Lee Tinsley, his first at bat today. That was the Updike quote. We'll give you one from Sparky Anderson in a moment. That's kind of hearing the other side.
Is it quite as poetic?
Now, Sparky's not a poet. Sparky once said, "There's no mystique at Fenway. They should burn the place down." Unquote.
I bet you that was after the Tigers lost the 3-game series here.
Probably after a home run into the screen. This one taking off towards right field. Mark Smith sets himself and makes the catch. It is a quirky ballpark. It's a terrific ballpark at which to watch a baseball game. I would think that if you're a young kid coming to your first baseball game ever, live, first time, just actually being there, this has got to be just overwhelming to walk out from the tunnel and take a look at this facility. There's that corner that Ken was talking about earlier in center field. How many ballparks have center field corners? Kevin Mitchell hit one kind of near there back in the second inning. Now batting .315. Soft stuff from Jesse Orozco again.
You know, the bond between the fans and the players here at Fenway is kind of special because they're right on top of the action. And I think most of the ballparks nowadays, the new ones being built, are trying to get back to this. The very same thing. Trying to get the fans right in on the action in the ballpark. And you never know who you're signing autographs for. I'd run into the great reliever for the Atlanta Braves, Mark Wohlers. He told me he grew up in the Massachusetts area. Came to only a few games here at Fenway Park. He got only one autograph during that few times he came here, and it was mine. And he says he still has it.
That reminds me, I'm supposed to get you to sign a ball before you catch your flight here today. Don't let me forget.
But it kind of threw me when he told me that. And it reminds you of the fact that you know, you might be setting the tone for a young kid to go on and continue on in the game and keep playing it.
2-2, 2-out pitch. Would you believe Mitchell's got a 3-hit game, his second this week? Mitchell's been fighting through hamstring problems this year. It's been a hit to his wallet. Mitchell has a very unusual arrangement, a base salary plus $3,000 for every trip to the plate. And that kind of puts the pressure on the guy hitting in front of him. Let's say it's the 9th inning. You make the last out, leaving Mitchell on deck. You've just cost that man $3,000. So maybe you got to buy him dinner or something.
Well, that's another trip to the plate.
Well, I think Kevin's made that trip. Says he's always been big-boned, and that's all he wants to say about it. Though he has shed some weight lately. What did he tell you? 18 pounds.
17, 18 pounds.
Stanley takes a look at strike one. Mike Stanley today 0 for 3. Well, the Pirates used to try and prod Willie Stargell to get down under 225, and he'd starve himself trying to do it, and then watch his production drop right off. Maybe it's better just to leave well enough alone sometimes. The Orioles have been through that with Sid Fernandez. Orozco with a fastball for strike 2. Mike Stanley having a great year offensively, but he's not been throwing out runners, those that are trying to steal against him.
Well, his name has been bandied about a bit as far as trade rumors. Remember, you have to the 31st of July to make a deal without waivers.
Mike Stanley probably doesn't need this now, but whenever he's going badly, he'll write himself reminder notes right on his bat. KYSI, keep your shoulder in. HTTB, hit through the ball. I do that during these broadcasts. Right here on the side of the monitor, I've got PNFL, promote new fall lineup. It's very helpful. And Kevin Kennedy has enjoyed that production at the bottom of the order this year. Stanley hitting 8th today. Over the years, Mike Stanley has been the poster child for why it has been so important for a pitcher to get ahead of a hitter. Stanley is an extreme case, but in the last 5 years, when he's ahead in the count, he's a .419 hitter. When he's behind in the count like this, he's at a .185. So advantage Orozco with your runner at first and 2 out. 2 balls, 2 strikes now.
Well, the Orioles not bothering to hold Kevin Mitchell at first base. They do not expect Mitch to be off and running. Early in his career, if he had done that, he might take off and steal a base trying to get in scoring position late in the ball game. But here, Bonilla not even bothering to hold him on, at least not that close.
Another foul ball here. Mike Stanley still with a 2-ball, 2-strike count. A 2-0 game, and as you look ahead to as Davey Johnson checks that lineup, just as we were about to do. Good Farmer from the booth to Davey. Cal Ripken, Rafael Palmeiro, Bobby Bonilla due up.
So they do have the hitters up 3, 4, and 5 in the top of the 9th.
Saw that 9 next to Ripken's name. Doesn't mean he's about to play right field. That means he's going to lead off in the 9th inning. Right in there from Jesse Orozco. Strike 3 called to Mike Stanley. Last chance for the Orioles coming. 3, 4, 5 batters will hit. Could it be, as we go to the 9th, the Boston Red Sox are going to pull out what has been the Comet Kohoutek of our occurrences here? Something you don't see very often, a Red Sox shutout. They have not had one this year. But Tim Wakefield, after a knuckleball that seemed to be getting away from him early in the day, the 6th hitter. He has hit a batter. That's been about it. And a knuckleballer getting into the 110, 120 pitch range. Kevin Kennedy knows that's okay. As long as the knuckleball does what it's supposed to do. That one did not to Cal Ripken.
You notice only the 1 strikeout. So the Orioles have put the ball in play, but they haven't really put it in play with authority. Getting very tentative swings at Tim Wakefield this afternoon. Something you would expect off a knuckleballer who really has it working well.
Ripken 1 out of 3 today. Baseball's Iron Man. And Tim Wakefield there to your left, trying to dispose of him, and then Palmeiro and Bonilla to get the Red Sox out of here with what would be 9 wins and 11 ball games, including a ball game back in Baltimore right before the All-Star break that got him started. Cal Ripken goes all the way ahead in the count here. If he gets on, anybody that comes up after him is a tying man.
That pitch didn't miss by much.
Ripken takes all the way on 3-0.
That was not a knuckleball. It was your, I guess you could call it a fastball, but it was meant to be a strike, knowing that Ripken's going to be taking all the way.
Now your standard issue 3-0 fastball, and now Kevin Kennedy has to decide how long to stay with Wakefield if he continues to drop behind in counts here. He does have 2 complete games to his credit this year, does Wakefield. Ripken unable to get it. Now the full count.
The key man in any inning for a pitcher is that first hitter. Can he regain his rhythm? Wakefield's been able to do it just about every inning of the day, I'd say with the exception of the 5th, when the first 2 hitters got hits.
Payoff is popped up. Mo Vaughn is called off by Jeff Fry, and he's got it two-handed. He roared all the way back against Cal Ripken. He was down 3-0. Fired right in there to work the count full, and then gets the pop-up.
You know, the thing about it, he was behind 3-0. As you said, he fired a fastball in there knowing Ripken was taking, but then he came back with 2 knuckleballs. And that shows you the confidence he has in that pitch. Willing to throw it, knowing that if he puts Ripken on, he's going to bring Palmeiro up, representing the tying run. So Tim Wakefield showing confidence in the knuckler.
This one dipping low to Rafael Palmeiro. He's hit the ball on the ground 3 times today. Grounding to short and then to Mo Vaughn a couple times.
Talked to Rafa. He said he's hitting 5 of his last 6 games, but he doesn't feel comfortable. Doesn't feel comfortable at the plate, but he's the type of hitter. You know, sometimes you get to a point in the season where you look at the calendar and you say, I can reach back for 2 more months here.
You saw the tank has been empty for the most part against Tim Wakefield. Another steady as she goes season for Rafael Palmeiro. 24 home runs, 82 batted in. Fouls it away. Boy, Tim Wakefield, a great story. If he can turn this ship back around, it had been heading for an iceberg, but if he can get things straightened out, everybody will be talking about him just like they were right about this time last year as a saving grace. Palmeiro watches the knuckleball come up and in. Another payoff pitch will be due.
Well, Wakefield last July was the American League Pitcher of the Month. Went 6-0 with an earned run average of 1.53. This might not turn out to be a turnaround for him this year as well.
Ball 4, and the tying man will hit. It will be Bobby Bonilla, who's got a 10-game hitting streak. Now the fans pressing a wave of boos in the general direction of Kevin Kennedy as he comes out. The Red Sox bullpen has been iffy at best. I think that's a kind term this year. 1 walk. He gets another as the walk to the mound is made by Kennedy. Heathcliff Slocum ready to go in the bullpen. And the move indeed will be made. And the chorus of boos rains down on Kevin Kennedy. But Tim Wakefield now will bask in the applause here. He deserves said applause. Kevin Kennedy pulled Tim Wakefield. Wonder what he said to him on the mound.
I got to go to help here. Okay. I think you had enough. You got as far as you got to go here. I just don't feel good about Bobby in this yard. Okay. The high knuckleball. Right. I'm saying I want to get you on a positive note. Okay. All right.
You heard Kevin Kennedy say that he wanted to get Wakefield out on a positive note, and I agree with that. You take the pitcher out with a chance to be the winner. He cannot be the loser in this game. So now it's up to Heathcliff Slocum to shut the Orioles down from this point on. The problem for Kevin Kennedy is that the Red Sox bullpen tied for the fewest saves in the league with only 14, with the Detroit Tigers, who have had a horrendous season.
Yeah, in terms of stability, their bullpen has been a hot dog wrapper and a high wind gust. It has just not been something that you're comfortable with. 6 blown saves for Slocum. He goes after Bonilla. And misses to start him off. Bobby Bonilla with that 10-game hitting streak trying to pick up Rafael Palmeiro here. Bonilla represents a tying run. 2 outs left to get, 2 hurdles to clear for Heathcliff Slocum. Hard throwing right-hand pitcher. And this could do it. Slocum to Manto, to Vaughn, and a ball game. Craftily done. The comebacker, and Slocum saves it for Tim Wakefield, who wins for the 7th time this year. Rocky Coppinger's first major league loss. And 2-0 is your final today at Fenway Park. We'll be back. First Red Sox shutout of the year, 2-0 over the Orioles. Today's genuine Chevrolet player of the game is Tim Wakefield. He only had 1 strikeout today, but he got a lot of other things done nearly perfectly. A 2-0 final, and happy you were here to watch along with us. Bobby Bonilla striking out, the only strikeout victim of the day against Tim Wakefield. 2-0 final. Chip Carey's in studio after this.